Dr. Rosie,
Hey.
what in the world is mental fitness? Like we hear mental health, we hear physical health and fitness. For what is mental fitness?
Yeah, so I like to think of it like we get into the gym for our physical fitness. I like to think of
Mm,
training our mental fitness in the same way. You don't wait for an injury to happen for you to then go and lift. Like I like to think of our
mhm.
mind in exactly the same way. Like how can we strengthen it? How can we build things like mental toughness? How can we build mental capacity so that we can overcome challenges and setbacks and bounce back even stronger? For me, that is mental fitness.
So I heard you say this before. You're somewhat like I'm a skills trainer. And so you're a mental skills trainer basically for athletes.
Yeah, 100%. So one of my guys said this and I was like, "Oh, I like
Hmm.
it." So he said, "Oh, you know that you are like a skills trainer but for the mind?" And I'm like,
Hmm.
"Ah, yeah, that's exactly what I do." And now I've realized talking more about mental fitness, more like the skills trainer for the mind, people are getting it. They're like, "Oh, now I understand what you do." Because if we start to see it like skills training, and the same, you put the reps in, you start to see the progress, you stay consistent, you get more and more progression. Like now people are understanding it more. So yeah, I see myself 100% as a skills trainer for the mind.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it because when you think about how like it's becoming more aware of what mental health and everything is, but it's still very muddy and still like a huge gray of what it actually entails, what goes into it. So for you to say, I'm basically a skills trainer for the mind, that analogy paints the picture so much clearer for people. I like the way you put that because you don't want to run to a skills trainer when you're in trouble. Like, oh my game, I'm in a slump. Let me run to my skills trainer now. Oh, I'm I'm gonna have surgery. Let me now start working out and have a healthier life. Like, you want to have a lifestyle of going through this. So I think that's a beautiful way for you to put it. Um,
Yeah,
but
definitely. And it's
how do you,
like, sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, you see guys in the off season, sharing, like, this is what I'm doing with my skills trainer. Like, look what we're moving
Hmm.
on. I would love it if people spoke the same way about mental fitness. Like, if people talk about, right now I'm building out my alter ego, or I'm working on my confidence, or, I'm really working on like creating inner calm so that I can then dominate on the court because I'm not overthinking, or, you know what, I'm training to get into flow state more often. It's like, I would love it if people started talking that way because people are starting to kind of see that, this is quite different. This isn't just
Yeah.
waiting for, an issue to happen, or it's actually about building and strengthening and progressing just like you do with your skills.
Mm. So how do you kind of build the framework of a player's mental? Like, do you have like a go-to blueprint that you have, or do you kind of let the player come to you and you build out stuff for them from there?
It's so funny because I was talking with another coach about this today. So we were saying about frameworks, and he couldn't quite believe that I don't have like a set program that I take people through because, yeah, of course I have, elements, and we'll dive into it. I have elements that I work on, but it's really about like priority first. So, guys will come to me. They might be like, I really need to work on my confidence right now, or my focus is really bad at the moment. So is like, okay, well, let's go to work on that thing, or, experiencing anxiety and, they're overthinking and overwhelmed. It's like, okay, well, then we need to get to work on that thing first because that's the priority. And then, yeah, I have the elements that I always bring in, but actually how I do it, is really like tailored to that client of like, okay, this is what you want to work on. Then also what often happens is, I map out some things in our consult. This is what we're going to work on. This is our roadmap. But then life happens. A lot of my clients have kids, they're married, or, they've got other things that are happening off the court that it's like, okay, well, this thing's come up. We need to address that now rather than, well, we're on, the second phase of my program or whatever. It's like, no, I need to meet you where you're at so you can get exactly what you need in that
Mhm.
moment.
Mm. I love that because that's kind of how it is with skills. Like we have stuff that we go to. Like we know if we're working with kids, all kids need to learn A, B, and C. But then you get a player that's more advanced, and they come with very specific problems. Like, hey, I can shoot, but I can only shoot, catch, and shoot. I need to get better off the dribble. Or I'm a great shooter, but I need to work on having different things after that. And I think that's kind of how you attack it because you do
Yeah.
work with pros. And so you have to have very
Yeah.
specific
Yeah.
problems you're solving. to attack what they're doing. So is that fun for you to kind of
Yeah,
play
and
that
we've got
game of
to
like,
get
hey, let's
it
attack this
sorted
problem first?
quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Now I'm saying, is that fun for you to kind of like attack it that way rather than the basics of like, here's how you do for the basic and fundamentals? How do you kind of attack? Like, is it fun for you to take it that way?
Yeah, it's a great way to kind of, yeah, to attack things. And if we go, I am quite performance based. Like I look at, a lot of stuff off the court, but ultimately, like, guys want to see transformation in their next game. And yeah, we can't
Mhm.
have full blown, just like skills. You can't have the full blown transformation necessarily, but I could 100% be like, right, we can make a tweak and you will see something different in that next game. You've got a game in 2 days' time. If you've just started working with me, we're going to be able to do something that in that game you're like, okay, yeah, I was able to apply that and I could see the results. I want to do more of this. And I love that. And as a coach, it makes it, like really interesting as well, because you're really adapting it to that client. And the more that you get to know them as well, like I feel like you kind of connect at like a soul level as well. You now start to kind of know like, okay, this is what makes that person tick. But, like you're saying, working with kind of all different ages, doesn't matter whether you're a high school athlete, whether you're pro, NBA, EuroLeague. I have 5 areas that I tend to work on. So it's things like confidence, focus, emotional regulation, self-talk, and resilience. And they're, after working with all different people, they're the 5 things that it's like, okay, we need to make sure that these are all optimized.
Mm. So how do you get the long term buy in? Because in the era of instant gratification, people want the quickest turnaround, and you're working with pros, so it's like I need to feel confident because I have a game tomorrow or in 2 days. How do you kind of balance the short term wins with the long term battle of what it takes?
So this is where the skills stuff comes in, because if you're, doing like the kind of the surface level stuff, like meditation, so in terms of the skills side, meditation, breath work, focus techniques, like, yeah, we're going to see, some, like I was saying, some transformations in your next game. You're going to have some things that you can apply. But the longer term stuff is the mindset. You've got to be looking at like rewiring your mindset and your beliefs and overcoming limits. Well, that's longer term. We're not gonna be able to rewire your brain in this one session. So I think, sometimes to get kind of buy-in, people need to just get on a call with me. And I'm like, okay, let me give you some tools, let me give you some things that you can work on. Chances are in their next game, because they've brought some stuff up, we've then been able to talk through it. I've been able to take them into maybe like a visualization or whatever. Then, yeah, in their next game, something is going to shift that they're like, yeah, okay, I need to do more work on this. And then as we work more and more, I've got one of my guys has been with me for 3 years, and kind of we keep like working and building. And the longer that people are with me, then it's like, okay, now I really know where you're at. And he's, gone all around the world while we've been together. So it's like the moment that he gets to a new team, I'm like, I can instantly like help him to like, okay, we're going to land in this team and we're going to go straight away. So that, I think, the more people work with you, it must be the same for skills trainers. The more people work with you, they're seeing the results. They're like, yeah, I want more of that. We don't get to that point where it's like, now we're at the top of the mountain and there's no more work to do. It's like, no, we want to keep building and we want to keep pushing that bar. So now you're the one that they trust and they will always come back to.
Mm. Do you get a lot of resistance of working in season? I know it's easy to do it in off season when they're,
Mm.
summertime, they're not doing stuff. Is it harder for you to get them to understand you to work in season too?
That's really interesting, because no, it's the opposite for me. I struggle in the off
Really?
season because people are
Okay.
like, I don't need to work on this stuff. It's the off season. I'm not really thinking about it. I'll wait until the season starts. And if I like have a problem, I'll come to you. And I'm like, no, no, we need to work in the off season. So no, this point in the season, I'm full every year. So it's happened again this season. I'm full with my 10 clients, because people are in season and they're like, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this. Oh, poo. I want to like get like, my next game is in 2 days' time. We've been, we're on a losing streak. I'd seem to be really inconsistent with my game. I need something to change fast. So it's actually, yeah, during
Mm,
the in season that I'm really in demand, and in the off season is very quiet. Even with my regular
mm,
guys, they'll take a little break and they'll come back to me.
So how do you get them to understand the importance of working off season too?
It's hard. It's very hard if I'm honest. But what I like to do is to say, in the season, there might be things that we can't deep dive into that I don't want to be opening up a whole can of worms like 2 days before your game. And now, like, we might have created more problems. So actually, during the off season, that's when we can really dive deep into stuff. And that we can work a lot on your mindset. Yeah, I do a lot of mindset work anyway, but in the off season we can dive deep. We can look at what are you working with your skills trainers on. Okay, well, let's make a visualization for that so that now you can be getting the reps in as well when you're not always kind of doing the physical work. So
Mhm.
it's hard. It's really hard, if I'm very honest, to kind of try and portray that message. It's easier with people that are already working with me because we can then look at other stuff like relationships or lifestyle or things off the court. But with new people, I hardly ever get new clients during that off season because I just can't seem to get the mess. They're often like, no, I'll wait until I have a problem and then you'll be the first one that I call. And I'm like, but what if we saw this as like prehab? Like that,
Mm,
if we can be working on things now that might already be an issue for you, how
mhm,
about that then doesn't happen in the in season? Like, don't wait for it to, oh yeah, there's that recurring problem again. Now I need to speak to
mhm.
Dr. Rosie. And then obviously then the pressure's on that like I need to be like a miracle worker to now like
Yeah,
invite this like, the next game, like you need to have undone all of these problems that I've had. And it's hard to articulate.
yeah. We did the same thing. It's a lot of, well, it's kind of opposite because we get the off season work is the most work, but then in
Yep.
season comes. I get it from the standpoint they don't have time. I understand completely, but it gets to a point where it's like, hey, my shots aren't falling, or I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that, and I can see the issue and know how to solve it, and it might take 2 sessions to really get it to stick and go through. But because there's the pushback against working in season, then we can't really solve the problem the way we kind of need to. And it's just interesting to see how that kind of works.
Yeah. And I just want to add to that bit about time because I think sometimes with my kind of work, they might have some resistance because they're like, I don't have time for, hour
Mhm,
long therapy sessions or, 2 hour. So I'm always like, well, when I'm not a therapist, well, that actually isn't how I work. And also, we can do really short calls. So I have, some of my guys might ring from the airport and we'll have like a 20-minute call, which is then interrupted with people
mhm,
taking photos, and it's fine. You get used to it. Or, a guy might ring on the way to practice. We talk through what he wants to do in practice, and then he rings me straight after practice. And then when he gets home, he's like, yeah, so I'm home now. So like, bye, chat
mhm,
to you another time. And like, it's like this work gets to be flexible. And, we voice note a lot. So WhatsApp is like a main part of my coaching. So we text and voice notes so that I'm kind of on the journey with them and I'm coaching and guiding outside of sessions. But it's like we don't have to work in that traditional sit down for an hour, hour and a half, tell me all your problems type work. It's like, no,
yeah,
it gets to be fun as well. That's something I'm really big on. It's
mhm.
like we get to play with this and we get to have fun. And so make this work for you.
So what's the difference between you and a therapist, just for clarity's sake?
Okay. I don't know whether I'm going to get backlash from this. So I often think that therapists tend to look in the past. So they'll look at kind of, what's the root? Like where did these things stem from maybe? And kind of unpicking it that way. Whereas me as a coach, I tend to be future thinking. So I'm like, where it's not saying that, the past doesn't matter. It's just not where I focus. We look at, okay, where do you want to go? Like, what does that next level look like for you? What does that, version of you, like, how do they show up in the world? How do they lead their team? How do they play? We're looking to the future. And then we're bringing it into the present by saying, okay, well, how can you move from that person today? Like, you don't have to wait for the external situation to change. It's a decision that you show up as that version now. And then we do this, the tools like visualization, we do the embodiment work. So I'm like, I guess I think as a coach, I don't know whether this is an English term, but we say coach for bus. So I often think that it's like I'm the coach driver. So I'm, yeah, I'm going to check in the rear view mirror sometimes, but chances are like it's much safer for us if I look if I look on the road ahead. So that's what I'm doing.
Mm. That's an interesting way to put it. Therapists try to go look backwards, look at the root, but you're dealing with the current situation and looking forward.
Yeah. And so it's not saying one is right or wrong, both complement each other. And some of my guys have had a
Hmm.
therapist and me, which has been really interesting because obviously I'm now, niched in basketball, so we'll focus on games as well. But it's just that, yeah, I'd say that's the difference is therapists are looking at the root and kind of looking behind, which then obviously does help you to move forward. Like, of course it does. That's the aim. But my main focus is, yeah, present and future looking.
Mm. I think that's a good way to put it. I want to dig into the skills you're talking about versus, you're
Mm.
saying meditation and visualization. If those are skills, what are other things that you also work on too? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, other in terms of skills,
Yes.
yeah. So, other skills, using a journal. Sometimes there's resistance to using a journal, but that's often because people just either don't quite understand what it is or they just like haven't had enough practice with it. But I use a journal a lot with my guys. So using it as, a tool for reflection after games. We'll use it as like vision making. So again, thinking to that future, start writing as if it's already happened, this kind of thing. So journaling is a really big one. Breath work, your breath is so important. And the amount of times that I say to guys during the week, you need to drop out of your head and come into your body. Like when we're overthinking and
Mm.
overanalyzing and things, it's like, okay, you need to stop thinking for a minute, come into your body, like connect with your breath. And we use that a lot in games as well for like resets. Um, what other tools do I use? So some kind of fun things. So training focus, I use something called a concentration grid. I don't know if you've come across this. It's like numbers jumbled up and you have to click on them in order and see how fast you can do it. So we do things like that and we train it under different stimuli, like putting on music or doing it in like a busy cafe and to just kind of train that focus and attention. Um,
Mm.
there are lots of different tools that I use, but they're probably, yeah, main ones that I do. And then with visualization, I give guys recorded ones, but we also do it live as well. So I'll actually take them into a visualization. And again, my visualizations, I don't script. I kind of just see, what's come up from the session and where do I need to take them. And that's really fun to do.
Mm. Okay, we're gonna go back there, but the five pillars that you
Mm.
work on and kind of go through. What are those again?
Yeah. So we've got confidence, focus, emotional regulation, resilience, and self talk.
Okay, so if someone's struggling with their confidence,
Mm.
what are the most common? I can say like not problems, but when they say they're struggling with their confidence, what are they saying? Like, what are the most common things that they're saying that's paired with the struggling confidence?
So fear of failure, which I often see that it's not the failure itself, it's more people seeing you fail. There's a lot around
Uh-huh.
external validation, needing other people to tell you that you're doing a good job, needing other people to be the ones that boost your confidence because they've given you your flowers. And if they haven't, then confidence can start to shake. Um, that kind of not quite believing in yourself, not quite trusting. Sometimes we actually have to look at like, is this actually a confidence issue, or do you feel that you actually just haven't put in enough preparation? Like, is it more that there's kind of not trust in the preparation, which is where, skills trainers come in. So it's like, okay, we have to look at that side. Um, Often it can be, especially at the start of the season, being in a new team, not quite understanding your role, kind of that like, waiting for things to kind of to get into rhythm, waiting for the team to gel. Waiting is a big one actually that, will get in the way of confidence is like I catch my guys so much when they're like, hopefully the next game will be good. I'm gonna see how this one goes, and I'm like, we don't talk like that. Like there is
Mhm.
no wishing, hoping, trying. Like we got to work on having some kind of certain beliefs.
Mm. I think that's funny because when I think about confidence, I personally define it as self belief or self trust. And so self
Hmm.
confidence is just saying, I trust myself to go and do this thing, whatever it is. And
Yeah.
so, like you said, sometimes that lack of confidence comes from, I don't trust myself. Well, why don't you trust yourself? Well, I haven't
Hmm.
done enough reps. Like you said, I haven't trained enough for that moment.
Yeah.
Um, and then like you were saying too, like the fear of it is not just the fear of failing, but being seen doing this failure. So it's really the judgment of the failure, not the failure itself. Because we fail
Yeah.
all the time. If I'm playing a video game on my phone or whatever and I lose, it's like, oh man, I lost. But if you're playing, like the kids are streaming these days and they're watching, however many people watch them stream, play the video game, and you lose that way, then it's like, oh my goodness, I failed. I lost the game. And it's a lot more detrimental. And so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just an
And that's
interesting way
something
that you
that
put all that
is,
together.
yeah, there's
Mm,
something that can be really detrimental as well, is putting all of your effort and attention on everybody else. One that's going to
mm,
drain your brain. So now you're thinking, I even had it with one guy where he wasn't just thinking about making shots. He was thinking about, is this one going to look good? So now, like,
mm,
often he was then missing because his brain is over there, like watching a scout or something. And, when you start to think about what other people are thinking of you, you like 100% your confidence is going to shake them because you're not putting your confidence, you're not putting your self-worth on on you. You're putting your
yeah.
your worth on outcomes or on other people's opinions and judgments, which of course is out of our control. So yeah, confidence like 100% has to come from within. And my guys are often saying the byproduct, when they feel that kind of self-confidence, like self-assured self-worth just comes from you, the byproduct is that they play well, but they're not now
Mm,
chasing the outcome. That's the difference.
mm. Yeah, because I believe a big piece of that confidence is being able to accept the failures, accept the losses. You can really accept the outcome no matter what. And that makes like the Shea Gilgeous Alexanders, the Jokic's, like they make them so great and so confident where I can take the game winner, make or miss, I'm still who I am, no matter what.
Mhm.
And that makes it a lot easier for them to show up the next game because I put the work in, I trust myself, and I can live and die with the outcome of it because I know who I am. Versus
Yeah.
same team, guy who at the end of the bench, they missed that shot. And it's like, oh my goodness, I might have my contract missed now. I might have to go to the G League. I might have to, I might kick out of the league altogether and have to go find something else to do. So that being able
Yeah.
to bounce back from failures is a big piece of confidence for me too.
Yeah, it's so, so big. And going around that kind of the fear of like other people seeing you fail, it's
Mm,
actually learning that what they're really doing is seeing you grow. So if people are watching you make
mm,
mistakes, you know what? Well, that's going to compound because it's growth. And so they're going to look back. If you really do care about what people are thinking, then okay, take your mind there to like those people are then going to see your progression. And isn't that an amazing thing? Because they're going to see you fail and then they're going to see that you've put the work in. And so the next time you don't make that same mistake again. That's the thing,
mm.
is that actually what we don't want is people to be seeing us make the same mistake over and over without actually changing anything. The people seeing you make mistakes is just part of this journey of progress. And isn't that an amazing thing?
So do you think that that's the real reason why some of us are afraid of failure? Because we can show up and say, "Oh, I failed this one time," and that's fine. But if I were
Mm.
keep like, for instance, a game winner, if I keep missing the game winners, I don't think we have, going like you're saying, the mental resilience to keep showing up and keep doing it because it's like, can I trust them with the ball in their hands again? Can I trust them again to do it? And now I beat myself up because I don't know if I can show up now. Do you think that's the bigger picture that we don't really think about?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's that kind of, yeah, being able to, like repeatedly fail, pick yourself back up again, fail. We don't translate it into sports so much, but you hear of, all the great inventors. So let's take like
Mm,
Dyson. I can't remember how many number of prototypes he created for kind of the first like Dyson that we know, but it was hundreds. I can't remember the number.
mhm,
But, like greatest inventors are talked about in those terms. The number of
mhm,
times that they failed and they picked themselves back up again. We need to be seeing that in sports. that, you know what, that is success. The number of times that you fail, but you go again, you fail, you go again. But yeah, the main thing is you do want to be making sure that if you're making exactly the same mistake, well, something's got to change. Like you do have to take
Mhm.
radical responsibility too for like, okay, I need to actually look at this and address it rather than accepting this is just how things are.
Mhm. 'Cause I was thinking about doing this thing where, cause social media got to a point where we're just so infatuated and it's a highlight reel. Everyone's posting the greats and posting the ups. And I was thinking about doing a thing where I post my losses. And I'm like, hey, I tried to get to, I don't know, um, I tried to get 5 new players to train with me this week and I failed doing that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's just showing the transparency of like, I get tired of seeing only the highlights of people. So why not just show my weaknesses, to show my failures too, to one, give that transparency, and two, make it a more comfortable space for people to realize that you can fail too. But it's funny
Yeah.
thinking about this is like showing that and like, oh, I keep failing with getting players could be that thing of saying, what's wrong with this dude? Does he not know what he's doing? And if you're trying to get more players and then he just come back, we got the week. And it's like, God, what's wrong with him? But like you said, it's a testament to the longevity, the mindset to have, the long term, long suffering to deal with that and keep showing up and keep trying versus, oh, I tried 1 or 2 times and I failed. So I think that's an important thing to do. So I'm gonna
A
try. I
hundred
think about,
percent.
I don't
I'd
know.
also add to that to be like, don't just share the failure, share what you've learned from it and what you're going to do
Hmm.
differently. So I'll be vulnerable. I haven't got the number of people that I want in my membership this week. But then I track all my numbers. So I'm quite kind of geeky in that way. So I track how many DMs I'm sending a day or whatever. But then I can just look at my numbers and be like, yeah, you know why you haven't got the members in your membership? You
Hmm.
weren't consistent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You did loads on a Thursday, but you weren't consistent in the days leading up to that. So why are you
Hmm.
kind of thinking that from this one day where you sent loads of DMs that you're then going to get the results? So it's like, okay, well, what I
Hmm.
need to change is I really need to be consistent, or I need help to stay accountable. So if I'm like, I am really struggling to do this on my own, like I've just hired a PT because I struggle with my fitness to kind of keep accountable. So it's the same thing. It's kind of looking at like, okay, yeah, I failed here, but you know what? This is what I learned from it. This is my reflection. And this is what I'm going to do again differently. I think that if we like all kind of were able to share things like that,
Hmm.
that would be amazing because it shows the journey.
Yeah, yeah. I think you just talked me into doing it for sure. So,
We should do it together. We can share our failures. But also, I just want to add
all
to
right.
that because sometimes people are worried that if they start to focus on the failures, they think they're going to manifest more. I've had that with some guys where they're like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to focus on, my challenges or my weaknesses because when I start to look there, now my brain is going to think that, I've got a real problem and now I start creating more problems. And it's like, no, it's
Mm-hmm.
100% the opposite. If you can start facing those areas where, yeah, you're not doing as well as you wanted to, or you've got challenges or you've got blocks, well, now you feel in control because you brought awareness to it. And now you're asking yourself those questions like, well, okay, what can I do about it? What's in my control? What can I? So now you're actually using that and doing something with it, which then changes how your brain sees that challenge or failure.
Hmm. I mean, you can just tell them like it's like basketball. You can't say I don't know how to dribble with my left hand or I can't shoot, and we're just going to avoid it. Like we can't avoid the mental skills just because we don't want to be perceived as weak or as like it's an issue. Like no, you want to be as well rounded as you can to be as productive as you can.
Yeah.
So
I think you have to
I
ask
think,
yourself the question, do I want to be elite? Like if the answer is
mhm,
no, I just want to stay as I am, then fine. Like nothing changes. But if you want to be elite or you really do have a desire to push yourself and, see how far you can go, well then yeah, you can't avoid any of this.
all right. So what are like the top 3, 5, whatever number you want to have? Like what are the top few things you do to start attacking their confidence to help them rebuild it or just build it up in general?
So, I mean, one of the things we have to look at where your limits are. So I get people talking. The more that I can get people just yakking away I can hear where their brain's at. And often they'll apologize and they'll be like, oh, sorry, like I just spoke loads. And I'm like, this is amazing because I can now hear, okay, you've got this story. Like, no one's validated me. So I'll get people to tell me, tell me your whole journey. Sometimes they might start from like, a really young age and it's like, okay, we settle in for the story. And then you start to see patterns of like, okay, well, you've said so many times, like, well, no one gave me validation. I had to make it on my own. No one helped me, all the things. So it's like, that you're still seeing that now because you've created this story. So now your brain is like, this is what always happens, always. This comes up a lot.
Mhm.
So first of all, look at where the limits are. Where's that, unhelpful belief? Where are the stories? And I do call them stories because then we can kind of remove ourselves a bit and be like, it's just your brain creating a story. It might not actually be fact, but this is the narrative.
Mhm.
So we have to work with that and we have to look at how we can reframe that. Like, what's the new story? Or work with that story. So don't actually change the phrase itself. Like, if I had one guy who said people always call him a wild card. And he was saying it as a real negative thing. Like, people don't really know what I'm going to do next. And I was like, why don't we play with that? How about you own the fact that you're a wild card? And how could that be an amazing thing? And so now we're really playing with that. So that's really fun. Which leads me on to the second point of we then look at mapping out an alter ego. So like Kobe, Black Mamba. So the guy
Mhm.
that was a wild card, his alter ego is the Joker. So we played with this and he's now mapped out this whole identity and it is working so well for him. That's one of the ones where we saw every time I do alter egos, we see a transformation in their next game because now they're not actually playing from their current self. They're playing from this identity that they've mapped out. And that, yeah, that's a really big one to create that kind of unshakable confidence is like, okay, who are you going to be? What's that character that you're going to play? And we get really like underneath it. Um, and then the other one is doing the reps. So, those two things are quite kind of mindset based. So then we have to bring in the mental reps as well. So, visualize daily when you've got this identity mapped out. You've got to tell your brain this. It's not going to remember it. So you have to get these mental reps in. Do your visualization. I make them all a visualization. Write in your journal about your intentions for your next game. How do I show up when I move from this energy? And also look at what happens when I face a challenge or what things might trip me up and how am I going to overcome that? How am I going to face that? So then when you get into the game, you're like, okay, well, I've already mapped this out. And then we use, tools like music. I'm very big on music to then create that energy before you even set foot on the court. So it's like you don't wait for the first bucket to land. And now, okay, now I feel confident, which is often what
Mhm.
people say. It's like, no, we're going to create that energy before you even set foot on that court.
Mm. Explain the whole thing with music. What do you do with music?
So my background is music psychology. I am a musician. It's a big, big part of me. Um, but we use music in terms of the energy side. So, everyone listens to music, but often we're not very intentional about it. We've got it on in the background in the gym. We've maybe got our phone on shuffle and we just keep skipping until we find a good one. So we actually get really intentional with, okay, how do you want to feel when you're playing? Creating those feeling words is really big, a big part of my work. So let's say confidence is one of the, this is how I want to feel. I want to feel confident. Okay, well, what tracks take you back to times where you felt super confident? So you might have the emotional side with it, the memories, but you might also have what tracks give you, what kind of tracks have lyrics that you're like, yeah, I really resonate with that. That makes me feel really confident. So actually, let's curate your playlist, and everyone's playlist is going to be different. Let's curate that, and you only listen to it either at practice or game days or just game day. You don't want to listen to it all the time because it's going to wear thin. But then you use that as this is me like anchoring in and embodying this version of me that I want to show up as. And that helps a lot. I do
Mm.
have to try and convince people sometimes because everyone listens to music and they're like, yeah, but I already do it. And I'm like, you just have to trust me. And often when they do and they make this specific playlist, they're like, yeah, you are right. That actually did help me. I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't be so surprised.
No, that's interesting because Kobe had something similar to that, to where he needed to tap into a certain energy. Like he said, there are times where I was down, I need to get a pick me up. So I listen to certain music to pick me up.
Hmm.
Or he had times when he was a little too high, a little too amped, a little too ready. Need to calm down, so listen to that. But then the weird one he would listen to like I want to say the Michael Myers uh
Yeah,
one. Yeah, he had different
yeah,
stuff he had to go to, and that'll get him in that space to where he needed to go. So he never had like a set playlist in terms of need to amp up. It's like, I need to amp up, so let me pull here. I need to calm down, let me pull here. I'm everywhere, let me get focused. So he might meditate that time. So it's just interesting how
yeah.
you do that
And
too.
it comes to that kind of that awareness. I always talk about us being like a thermostat. So, you got to
Mm-hmm.
notice, is my energy so high that I'm now going to get, anxious and I'm going to feel kind of like a little bit chaotic? Yeah, okay, I need to bring it down. So we're going to work with our breath. If I'm too low and
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of not feeling very motivated or whatever, I'm too checked out, we need to bring it back up again. And yeah, the Mike Myers music, that's linked with the alter ego. So that was his way of tapping into that kind of black mamba. Like, yeah, one of my
Mm-hmm.
guys, the one that I was saying about, uses the Joker. He started listening to a track from Peaky Blinders because he was saying he kind of like thinks of the, I haven't seen Peaky Blinders, but he thinks of like the main character in that. So he now listen, it's not a track that he would listen to any other time, but
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of one of his things to like, yeah, embody it. But essentially, you have to have that awareness in the first place to then be like, okay, this is what I need. And obviously the more work you do, the more awareness you have and the tools that work for you. But that's why I'm not prescriptive with, everyone doesn't get exactly the same because we're not all the same people and we're not all,
Mm-hmm.
playing in the same situations or whatever. And so it's day to day. It's like my job as your coach is to help you to have that awareness and help you to bring in different tools so that then, there will be a time where we're not working together, but you then continue this. That's a job
Mm-hmm.
well done on my side.
Mm-hmm. So I think that would kind of lean into the other pillar of emotional regulation. Um,
Mhm.
how do you kind of navigate that, especially when you're dealing with the high stress situation that you're dealing with pro players? How do you kind of coach through the emotional regulation?
Yeah. So, I mean, some people are, naturally like quite good at this anyway. So not everyone kind of comes to me needing to work on this straight away. But often, you do have to begin with that awareness. Like I was saying, like have awareness of, okay, what tips me too far over the edge? And also what kind of brings me so far down that I've now checked out and I'm not there anymore. I talk a lot in terms of ice and fire. So we want to have ice in the mind, so being able to have that clear mind, kind of calm, free, but then like fire in the chest. One of my guys drew this out in one of our sessions, which I loved. But you can't have one or the other. Like you need to have both. And you can't create that fire until you've got that inner calmness as well. So we need to look at, where are the things that do tip you over the edge? Foul calls or whatever, you get frustrated with the ref, like coach benches you. What are they things that have been triggers for you? Okay, well, again, we need to come out of your mind and into your body and just like bring everything back down again so that now we've got that calmness and then we can play with the fire again. This is kind of making sense. But it has to start with that awareness of, where am I on the on the thermostat? Am I
Mm-hmm.
like right up here or am I kind of too far down? And knowing that it's not fixed either. In a game, it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
really fluid. You're going to be going up and down, and you've got to kind of have that, yeah, that awareness and knowing how to regulate.
I really like that. I think that's a good way to where, like you said, you're coaching them to be able to coach themselves in those moments. And so by you giving that imagery of saying the thermostat, you're able to say, okay, I'm a little too hot today. I'm a little too hot right now in this moment. My coach says something, oh, this happened in the game. We're down by 10. Defense isn't doing this. I need to calm back down now. What are my tools that Dr. Rosie taught me to calm back down? Okay. Or I'm down on myself. I'm beating myself up. Coach said I'm messing up. My teammates fussing at me. I'm having a bad game. How do I pick myself back up? I think that's a great way of putting that imagery in their head to where they can kind of coach themselves through that. So
Yeah, that's what you
I
want.
love that.
I want you to
Yeah.
be able to do this in the moment so that and also then you feel, again, you feel in control. Because I'm always saying to
Mhm.
people, what matters is what you do next. The fact that you get frustrated or pissed off, Okay, but it's always about what you
Mm,
do next. So are you going to let that hang over you, or is it going to be like, a couple of seconds, I've reset, I can go again? Because I have, some younger players who get annoyed with themselves for even being frustrated. And I'm like, no, it's
mhm,
fine. That's just your body responding. Like, that's okay. But it always
mhm,
matters what you do next. I think that's really important. And I think the other one on emotional regulation is making sure that you, to the best of your abilities, because it's hard, that you don't take on other people's energy. So that can be
mm,
hard. You got teammates who maybe you're down by so much. Now they're like, their energy's dropping. You've got a coach, especially in Europe. He's kind of yelling at you. Like he maybe isn't in control of his emotional regulation. So
mhm,
I have kind of some things. There's one thing that, I can share that, um, can help you then to kind of just like let that energy be their energy. And
mhm.
equally with your team, knowing when you need to bring that energy and you need to kind
Yeah.
of, so if their energy is dropping down, well, you now need to kind of heighten yours and then give it to them so that they then borrow
Mhm,
your energy. And now collectively, like we're back up again. But the tool that I use a lot, it might sound really bizarre, but I use it all the time and it works so well, is that let's say coach is yelling at you or whatever, he's got his own emotional stuff going on. Well, underneath that it is a message. There is something that he's trying to communicate, maybe not in a way that's actually landing for you. So what I really like to do is we imagine that we're in a bubble, like a zorb, like the big like plastic ball that you can kind of like roll
mhm,
around in. Well, if you like imagine that you're in there and it's a very simple visual, while someone is whatever they're doing, their own energy, well, that's out there. That's out there, out of my bubble. I can take on board the message, but you know what? I'm not going to let that energy permeate. Like in my personal bubble, it's got like fairy lights and things. It's a nice, like, kind of Zen space. I'm not going to let that energy come in. You can do what you want. Like, I let people kind of, people be people, and I can take on board that message, but I just don't need that energy in there. And that visual, you literally see yourself in the bubble in the moment. That helps a lot so that you can just take on board that message, but let the energy bounce off because we just don't need that.
mm. I really love that, man. I think that's a good one too. Uh,
It's very
I train a
simple but effective.
yes, I train a couple girls who have pockets of being hot headed, you know, and when I'm talking to them, I'm like, hey, you got to figure out how you can regulate it and control it. And because the way I am, I'm a pretty nonchalant guy. I'm pretty chill. And I tell them, hey, just because this is how I am, I'm not trying to make you be like me. There are a lot of different
Mm.
coaches, a lot of different styles. I'm telling you how I work through this. I'm telling you, you need to regulate and control it. I'm not saying don't be stoic and non-reactive like me. I'm not even fist fussing about you want to slam the ball, kick it, whatever. I don't care. Just don't go too crazy where you hurt yourself or hurt anything or break anything, and don't let it control you. So like go to 10 if you need to, but figure out how to pull yourself back down. So I love what you said in terms of figuring out where you are and don't try to overly adapt to people around you. Figure out how you kind of monitor it, but be aware of where you are too. So I think it's beautiful because I did that with my girls.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good one to do. And I'd say, hot-headed, like they can play with the fire, just being like, we just don't want to turn it
Mm,
into a forest fire that now is out of
yeah.
control. Like you kind of use it to your advantage. And again, stuff like visualization helps to be like, okay,
Mm,
what does that like controlled aggression look like for me? What does that kind of controlled fire look like? And you know what? Also see yourself get to that point where it's like, okay, it's feeling a bit chaotic now. I'll play with that in visualizations. I'll turn it up. I'll make it uncomfortable for people. And then it's like, but it's okay because I'm here, because I'm now going to talk you through where you can work with your breath, where you can just, okay, I brought it back down again. And it's like, yeah, we just need to know where that boiling point is. So then now we can work with it to bring it back down.
mm. So I think this will kind of flow into self-talk now. Um, because like you just said, we're in a space where I am on 10, I'm erupting. The self-talk can kind of say, hey, I can feel this way, but I need to talk myself through it to get back to where the calm mind, fiery heart. So what are you doing with the self-talk and how do you kind of navigate that?
Yeah, so self-talk work is often off the court. So this is where we're looking at the mindset, what are the, like I said, the kind of the stories that you're saying to yourself where you might say, this always happens, or, this is a theme in my life, I've always seen this. And it's like, okay, yeah, these are the stories. This like becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. But also noticing, maybe in practices, like, okay, what are the kind of things that you're saying to yourself? That guy's better than me. Coach doesn't seem to be like giving me what I need right now. I'm not clicking with the team. No one's listening to me, whatever it is. It's like, okay, well, this isn't particularly helpful. So how can we reframe it so that we can see, like you might be talking about failure or whatever. It's like, okay, how can we reframe it like we did at the beginning of this episode into
Mm,
something that's more helpful? Like, okay, well, this is, I've made mistakes. That's data. This is data. I'm getting feedback. I'm learning. Like, we're reframing it. In a game, you're not really going to have that capacity to think like this. Like, oh, like
mm,
what am I saying to myself? Like, how do I need to change that? In a game, you just need really short, sharp commands for your brain. Things like focus, next play, present, release is one that I use a lot to be like, something's kind of made you like heighten, or you've noticed a kind of a not a helpful way of talking to yourself. Say release, bring your attention back to the present. We will uncover that later in one of my sessions. But right now in the game, you don't have capacity to go and unpick all through this. You just want to have your brain needs short, sharp commands, focus, next play, whatever it is.
mm. How do you deal with the negative self-talk or people who are hard on themselves and beat themselves up? How do you kind of sort through that?
Mm. Again, so we'd look at that, well, what could you say differently to yourself? So let's say the mistake, like, I suck, I'm never gonna make it, that guy's way ahead of me, like we started at the same time and whatever it is. It's like, okay,
Mhm,
well, what could you say to yourself differently that would actually help you in this moment? So it could be, you know, okay, well, these are the areas that I need to work on. These are the areas that I could
mhm,
improve. It's not about being toxic positivity of, you're
mhm,
amazing, you're fantastic. It's like, no, it's okay to like point stuff out and be like, right, these are the things that I need to work on. But then
mhm,
when we start talking to ourselves in that way, like you're coaching yourself, this is what we want really. Now you start to feel empowered and in control because your brain's like, oh, well, I know what I need to focus on. So rather than focusing all my energy on, that guy's so much better than I am, everyone else is playing so much better, I suck, all the things, like it's just such a like a mood hoover. Then you need to be looking at like, okay, well, where can I put my brain back in control? Because all of that stuff makes us feel out of control and helpless, which isn't going to help.
mhm,
So then, yeah, pop your brain back in control. What can I do about this? Like, what's actually what is in my control? What can I focus on? Now we feel empowered to actually go take that action.
mhm. So I just saw a post, might have been yesterday. I just saw a post of a woman talking about how, and I don't know your spiritual beliefs, but she was talking about how the line between science, self-talk, and what the Bible teaches in Scripture all have a very similar through line, and
Mm.
um, the power of what you say and everything actually has scientific proof behind it, and it's not just philosophical. You know, how people get too heady with stuff, and it's like, watch what you say. Da, da, da. It's no, it's actual stuff into it, and you're speaking things into your life, and your brain starts to repeat this cycle, and that goes into what you were saying in terms of the story that you're telling yourself. Um,
Yeah.
it goes
100%.
into
So I love it on like you see the reels on Instagram where it shows like neural pathways being built in the brain and like
mhm,
from changing your beliefs you literally create new pathways in your brain and now this
yeah,
becomes a default. So if you start to talk to yourself as I'm the person who embraces challenges, I'm the person who isn't afraid to fail, I'm confident saying stuff like this to you. I'm a confident person. I'm a great leader. I work on overcoming my mistakes. I ask for help when I need to. Whatever it is, you have to repeat it and you have to back it up with evidence. so that these aren't
Hmm.
just words. You have to take action based on this as well. Now your brain has got evidence that, oh, okay, we actually are this person. You
Hmm.
then start to create new pathways in your brain that now that becomes your default belief, and that changes everything. So if you change your beliefs, you change the action, you change the outcome. And I do a lot of work on that with guys of like, okay, if we change this thought, what could be the feeling that comes from that? What could be the action that you take, and what could be the outcome? And you can, yeah, change your thought, change your outcome.
Mm. Have you read The Power of the Subconscious Mind? I think it's by Joseph Murphy.
No, I haven't. It sounds like right up my street.
Yes, it's a really good one. It breaks down how so many thoughts we have just kind of run in our subconscious, and we think it's so deep into it that we can't really regulate. We think that this is more a fact and more truth, and we can't like reroute that thinking in our brain, but it's just a way that we can do that. So I think I think you'll like that book. You should
Yeah,
pick it up when you get
that
a chance.
sounds like, yeah, just my kind of thing. And it's having that open mindset that you're even open to being able to change your beliefs rather than
Mhm.
well, no, this is just how it's always been. It's actually being open to the fact that you can 100% change that. And as a result, you can 100% change your life because you then worked on changing your thoughts. But you, yeah, have to take the action to back it up.
Yeah. So let's go into resilience next. Um, First, I find it interesting that you said resilience rather than mental toughness. And
Yeah.
secondly, you have a quote that I saw. You said, "Your calm is your boundary, and defend it without drama." I
Mm.
think that's beautiful to fit under resilience. So, first, can you break down why you say resilience versus mental toughness and what that quote means to you?
So this is really interesting. I think it's just that I chose resilience because then it's like, yeah, I wonder why. I was about to say because it's just one word, but that doesn't make any sense because I've got emotional regulation and self-talk in there. So yeah, I mean it's interesting. I for years I wasn't comfortable with the term mental toughness. I really fought against it and I was like no because I like mental flexibility. I like that as a
Mm,
term. But I really fought against mental toughness because I think that maybe at the time I was feeling that this isn't painting the best picture, as in like I don't really like the kind of the terms like tough and weak.
mm,
But now that I'm coming more into this kind of seeing it like a skills trainer, mental toughness actually does make sense to me in that capacity where I'm like, okay,
mm,
you are building strength, you're building mental strength. But I think resilience to me, and this might not be kind of everyone's opinion, but resilience is a bit more of like a kind of way of life as well. Mental toughness might be perceived as more of kind of just a performance thing. Whereas resilience is like, okay, well, are you a resilient person? Like this is something that you actually kind of you embody, and now you see the world through this, resilient lens. Like again, this
mm,
comes down to, how you face challenges, how you see failures, how you see setbacks, and being able to, yeah, focus on like, hey, what can I do to be able to, yeah, to be that resilient person? Or the other way, if I am a resilient person, then how do I see the world around me? That's a really
mm,
good question to ask.
mm. In
That
your
was a
quote, yeah,
long-winded way of answering your question. About, I guess the short answer is I'm not quite sure why I chose resilience over mental toughness, but as I'm thinking, this kind of makes sense that it's like, yeah, it is that lens.
but I do like it though. But I think because we, it's more of how we perceive the words more so. But when
Yeah,
you hear mental toughness, you think about it in terms of binary. It's either I'm tough or I'm mentally weak. And I think
yeah,
resilience is always a journey of how can I become more resilient? And I always tell myself, I believe in my ability to figure it out. I get frustrated, I get bothered with stuff, but no matter what I'm dealing with, I believe in my ability to figure it out. And so that's why I lean into resilience more than toughness. I like the way that you said it. Just because for me, it always puts me on that journey if I can be better. So I don't want to say I can be mentally tough because that implores that I'm being, or that assumes that I'm being mentally weak. So that's
yeah.
why I like to use resilience because it pushes me to be stronger no matter what.
Yeah. And as you were talking, I'm like, You know how you build resilience? Is by going through the thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can't build resilience in a classroom. You know, you can read about it, you can learn about it, but you will not know how resilient you are until you go through the thing. And when you're going through this really tough time or challenge or whatever it is, obviously there's a scale of kind of, some things are much harder to go through. When you're in it, you are not going to feel resilient at all.
Yep.
Which is,
Yep.
you have to keep going. Then when you look back, you're like, oh man, like that time really built my resilience. But yeah, in the period itself, I'm sure as I'm talking, I'm sure that there's a coach who was talking about this, a college coach who was talking about exactly this. And there was like a resilience module or something at one of the universities. And she was saying the same thing about, you won't feel resilient, but until you go through it, and then you know what, you've then grown that strength, and it won't be a one and done. You keep, there'll be something else, and so you build on that
Yep.
resilience.
Cool. Let's finish it up with focus. Um, how do you help people with focus, especially now with so many distractions? How do you kind of deal
Mm.
with focus with players and the athletes?
Yeah, this is such a big one because, we're in such a hyper connected society, which is amazing in some ways, but also really like a challenge for us, myself included, that we are so contactable and we get distracted easily. And so we see that, translate onto the court as well. So focus, this is often where the skills come in. This is less on the mindset. There isn't so much of the kind of the mindset side about, why are
Mhm.
you getting distracted? It's more like, how can we build the reps? So we need to do
Mhm.
things like meditation, to actually train your brain to, we notice a thought, we bring your attention back to your breath or to, part on your body or whatever. Um, but equally, I also do something that's the complete opposite of meditation. I call it thought surfing. It probably has a name of its own, but I don't know what it is. Where I'm
Mhm.
like, sit for 10 minutes and just let your thoughts come. Like, just let them flow and actually don't fight them. It's the kind of the opposite of meditation, but we often don't even give ourselves that time. Whenever
Mhm.
we're sat and we're a bit bored, we might be waiting in a queue or we might be at the doctor's surgery, like immediately we're on our phones. And so it's like, no, actually let yourself just sit for a few minutes, let the thoughts come, sit, because actually your brain's got some pretty cool stuff in there. It's also got some junk,
Mhm.
a lot of junk. just let it like, just let it filter stuff out. And then, every so often there's something good. So yeah, training it with things like meditation and then, breath work as well, being able to, again, drop out of your head, come into your
Mhm.
body. It is very, very difficult to focus on your breath and be thinking of all the other stuff. If you're properly
Mhm.
focusing on it, you're not going to notice anything outside. So that's really good. And then, like I said, in games, I had one guy who used to get distracted on the bench. I'd see him, like, he'd be like looking around and like trying to find family, like the game's going on, and you can kind of see. So, again, doing things that giving your brain commands, very simple commands,
Mhm.
focus, reset, look at your shoes or something. Ideally you're going to be looking at the game, but if you need just a moment to,
Mhm.
like, if you get distracted, you just need to bring your attention back. Have these words or a focal point that is just super, super simple and very much about simplicity, but you have to train it. This isn't going to
Mhm.
be a one and done. You have to now train. I also help, this might sound bizarre. I will tell my guys to train focus by listen to your partner while they're talking to you. Like, this is such a simple thing. But actually be present. Like,
Yeah.
listen to this is going to help your marriage, but like,
Mhm.
listen to the words that they're saying to you. If you're having dinner, you might be out on a date, you might be going out for dinner or something with friends. Really try to not grab your phone. I have to catch myself, even in the cinema, I have to catch myself wanting to, oh, I want to check it's like, no, don't check your phone. You're here, you're going to watch a film. Like,
Yeah.
really training focus for different things. Like, and I guess what I'm saying by focus is training yourself to be present in the
Yeah.
moment, where you are right now.
Yeah. I like how you said mental surfing. But for me personally, I see it as a form of meditation too, just for me personally, because I I try to always incorporate pockets where I'm letting my brain be a brain and not trying to, listen to music all the time, listen to a podcast or whatever, I allow it to just do what it do. And so there are pockets where I'm driving and I don't have anything playing, or, we love to get in the shower and have some music going. I try to have pockets where I don't do that. So to give myself those pockets where being very intentional to say, hey, I'm not going to feed anything outside. I'm going to let my brain be on this hamster wheel by itself and just run through whatever it has to do. So I really like that. I think that's a way to get the not to get too scientific, the dopamine effect that we feel, try to negate that and just get it through the self-serving of it, like the brain do it, whatever it's on, let it run that course. Because I have a lot of ideas that come out of that too. So I think that's a great
Yeah.
idea, mental surfing. I like that.
It works well.
Mm. And then kind of like you were saying, going back to a player getting kind of mentally, it kind of goes together with self-talk and emotional regulation and focus. And so there are times where I'm in the gym with a player and they're missing shots and they're getting very frustrated. And then sometimes I'm like, hey, let's focus. Hey, let's reset. But it's not really clicking for them. And so I'm like, hey, what you have for breakfast this morning? You good?
Mm.
Oh man, I never had that before. You think it's pretty? You think I should try it? Okay, now I look down. Oh, you got some nice shoes, man. You can give me something. You give me a pair. What I'm doing is getting them off of the task that we're on, and I'm getting
Yep.
them completely distracted. I'm like, hey, you see, they just walked in the door. You know them? Oh, you don't? Oh, okay. I don't know me either. I just wanted to know. And it helps them get themselves emotionally regulated because they're beating themselves up through the self-talk and they're down themselves throughout this whole process. But because you're able to get their focus on this other thing to come back to the current task, it helps them reset themselves. So do you
Yeah.
have anything like that to where, hey, get your focus off of the game real quick to go think about this and then come back? Do you have anything like that?
So I use that a lot in visualizations. It's called breaking state. So it's exactly what you just described. So we break the state, we like
Okay.
redirect your attention, then we come back to it. In a game, chances are they've already broken the state themselves, like as in
Mm-hmm.
because their focus has gone, they've got, distracted or whatever. So what I use in games is more bringing back, like coming back. So that's
Mm-hmm.
where we use the word because often what's happening is their mind has checked out of the game. We need to bring them back
Mm-hmm.
in. So it's, even if you're missing, so you might have, missed a couple of free throws or whatever. Now your brain is like, oh shit, almost like I don't want to get another one because I don't think I'm going to
Yeah.
make it. What's actually happened is they're not in the game in that moment. They've checked out. So we need to, release, reset, whatever their keyword is to bring them mentally back in because it's like the outcome doesn't mean that you now get to leave the game. You don't get to leave the game until that final whistle. So it's like we need to
Mm-hmm.
bring your mind back into it and be quick.
Mm. This is good. Like I feel like I should sign up and work with you because I'm really enjoying all of this, and I feel like I do it. I know I need some type of mental coaching. Um, but the
We all
beautiful
do,
thing about
myself
this,
included.
oh, oh yeah, and the great part about this is that you just released a new offer and a new programming. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, so it's called The Zone and it's a membership. So it's self-study. So they can work through, different modules, different areas of the game. But then the beauty of it is they also get community support and they also get support from me. So they get one-to-one like WhatsApp office hours. And I love it. We're seeing kind of really great results already from it. And just being able to help people essentially be your own coach. One-to-one
Mhm,
coaching, I'm very conscious it's not available to everybody and it's not in everybody's budget. So my membership, I really want to kind of be putting it out there as like, this is available for hopefully, more people. It's more accessible. But then you learn the tools very simply, because I'm very big on simplicity. You learn the tools so that you can be coaching yourself. You can work through this. And we have, different points of the season, different things you might need to work on. But then you also need that support to make sure that this sticks. Because we don't just want you to learn the stuff and it's one more classroom that you've learned. It's like, no, you need to apply this and we want to make sure
mhm,
that you're getting that support to stick these habits.
mhm. I like the community aspect because you can get to where you see what other people are dealing with and how they problem solve it. And you're like, okay, I see how they figured out and got that answer. I can use one element of it and use it to myself. So how do you kind of
Yeah.
use the community and how do you kind of set it up and organize it?
Yeah, the community surprised me actually. I wasn't sure how engaged people would be to kind of share, what's coming up with them. But they're really engaged. And I have, a variety of people in there. I have coaches as well. So I've loved seeing the coaches share their vulnerable side. And they're like, yeah, you know what? I need to work on this stuff. And then players are like, yeah, hearing you talk about this has made me think that actually that's an area that I need to improve on. They support one another, they cheer one another on. It's been amazing. And so my job is to facilitate the conversations and kind of, get people um, kind of engaged and, sharing where they're at or whatever. But often it's just been happening organically, which has been, for me, has been amazing to see. Just these conversations, like kind of, yeah, popping up and supporting one another. It's yeah, the community. And I love it's like one of my favorite hangouts to be on as well. Instagram, my community on Instagram and my membership are the two places where like I love to just go hang out. And I see the zone like a gym. So, I want it to be a place where people get excited to go to. And, you go to the gym and you see kind of some familiar faces. Again, you support one another. You might be cheering someone on. You might see that, they've lifted heavier than you've seen them lift before. So you celebrate them, but then you also remind them that, job's not finished. Like, what are you
Hmm.
focusing on next? And so that's what I'm really seeing in there. And I love it.
Mm. So if someone wants to join the zone, where are they looking at?
Yep. DM me on Instagram. So I've made a video which explains all of it. So if they DM me, then I'll share the link with them and that gives them everything they need.
Well, Dr. Rosie, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you're like, I wish you would ask? Is any other angle you want to attack before you get out of here?
No. I think we've covered I mean, there is so much that I could talk about, but we've covered really good ground in this.
I told you I'm doing my best to keep it concise for you because I my brain went so many different routes. We could have spent another hour talking. So,
Yeah, definitely.
but yeah, I've enjoyed it. I appreciate you coming on. And if anybody is interested, I'll put the link in the description below. And um, so, yeah, if anybody wants to see more of Dr. Rosie, join the zone, follow her Instagram. I've become a fan of her content and what she does. So that's why I got her on and hope you guys can love it too. And uh, but that's it, man. Make sure you guys subscribe and follow along for the next episode. See you next time.
Thank you.